and our indoor facilities here. We encourage our viewers to make contact with the club and to purchase the calendar and to purchase the tickets and go on the night. So from a very active committee, we'd like to, from Cavan TV, we'd like to thank you very much and hope to see you when you have your new developments.
Thank you very much for that, Brian. So remember, Crover House this Saturday night, 29th of November, for the launch of the calendar for Mountnugent G.A.A. So I'm now joined in the studio by Dympna Reilly, PRO, player and 5-time Rounders All-Star. So Dympna, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Congratulations.
You're very, very welcome.
So your 5th Rounders All-Star, that's an amazing achievement. And
great.
For the Erin Eagles is the team you play with. Tell me all about the celebrations and the award ceremony. It was just last Friday night.
Yeah, it was. It was great. So it was held down in Portlaoise. This year we were on a little bit of a road show. Before we have received our All-Stars in Croke Park, in the Green Isle. So this year it was Portlaoise. We're very hopeful in the next couple of years we're going to get it up as far as Cavan. Great. But I suppose it all depends. Our players have to keep on winning them. That's the main thing. So
that's brilliant. You've brought in your trophy for us.
I have.
My notes everywhere. And
yes.
Brilliant. So this is your 5th one. So you must have the cabinets filling up nicely.
Yeah, it is my mum's house. So I'm collecting them all there. Yeah, it was great. This one wasn't expected. Say some of the previous years, I would have thought I was in the running. So it was an absolutely brilliant surprise. We had got to our women's team had got to the All-Ireland final. So we thought we might sneak 1 or 2 in, but I would have thought another couple of the girls would have been further up the list. So I was absolutely delighted. And there was another All-Star as well from our club, Sean O'Grady. So he won it for 3rd base. Absolutely brilliant, had a fantastic season. It's his 2nd All-Star and he thoroughly deserved it. He had been out for about a year and our men's team is in transition at the moment. I suppose we lost some of our senior players, emigration, retirement. So Ogie's involvement back again this year was absolutely brilliant, particularly for the younger boys coming up. He was playing against the All-Ireland finalists and the younger boys were very, very nervous. Ogie got out, smacked the ball absolutely out of the park, got a home run for it, very rare in Rounders. And you could just see the boys around him kind of growing 10 foot tall, so it was absolutely brilliant and he thoroughly deserved it. It was great. 2 for the club.
A great night. That's brilliant. Congratulations to you both. It's only a number of years ago, back in 2012, that we had yourself and the girls and the team. You had won the All-Ireland Club Rounders Championships. You were so close with this year. You didn't quite get it, but something quite unusual happened. Tell us about that.
I suppose in the very last inning we were actually cruising for the entire game. We had snuck into the semi-finals. We were absolutely delighted to be there. We had in our semi-finals gone to extra innings, so again snuck into the final. We absolutely would have been considered the underdogs, but we came out of the traps. We're leading with I think the very last inning of the game we were leading by a number of scores, and then the opposition scored 11 home runs, so they just nicked it from us at the very last minute. We were totally and utterly gutted. So just one of those series of errors. The other team was absolutely fantastic. And I suppose the next day we all watched it was the same day that the Dubs lost their big game. So we kind of thought, okay, it was a similar fading at the very last minute. So,
Oh, okay, it was disappointing.
Next year, the great thing about Rounders is always next year.
Pick yourself back up and get back on that horse. Tell us about your position. And on your trophy, you specifically get your All-Star for left outfield, All-Star 2014. Tell us about your position.
So left outfield, it's kind of like it's the outfield positions. So you're really the last line of defence. If the ball goes by you, you're in a good bit of trouble, and you could kind of leak 1 or 2 home runs. You have to be very careful. It's kind of a lot of it is about positioning. It's gauging where batters are going to hit it, how far they're going to hit it. It can happen that the ball sails over your head, or as we called it, you get burned in the outfield and you're just running after that ball and it seems to be going further and further away from you. So I suppose positioning would be a big thing, but the main thing, of course, is when all kind of, all fielding positions and rounders is just catch the blinking ball if you're anywhere near it. You have to have a lot of
speed as well to kind of chase that ball up as well.
You would. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And good eyesight.
So, it helps. It all helps. But I suppose a lot of it is, it's quite tactical. Like sometimes if you're out too far, a good team will assess how far you're out, think you're out too far, and put it in front of you, you know, quite deliberately. So, you know, you have to try and hedge your bets all the time. If you're in too far, they'll hit it over your head. So there's a little bit to it. It can be tactical, kind of when you're going up and you're playing at the higher level. It can be a little bit tactical, yeah.
Rounders, it's a great game for men and women and also for mixed teams, but there is plans, a G.A.A. plan, I suppose, to implement and improve rounders in the county and maybe around the country. Tell us about that and the plans.
It's actually a really exciting time for us. I mean, we had a strategic plan was launched last year, and from that the G.A.A. has really got behind rounders. Now, I know still a lot of people don't know it's a G.A.A. sport, has been since the original founding of the G.A.A., but this, in the last year, they just have put so much into it. They kind of see rounders, they see the potential of rounders as a broadening, say, of sports horizons where people are playing more sports. They see the potential of rounders. They think that it can kind of be used for to bring in people who wouldn't be part of the traditional G.A.A. kind of family. So they kind of see the benefits of it in terms of at a very younger level, kids, say, who wouldn't have previously considered themselves to be sporty because they might not be very good at, say, football or hurling or camogie, and they see the potential for it there and kind of benefits of hand-eye coordination and all that kind of things. But also at an adult level, they're quite conscious that, say, the fastest growing sport in the country is now tag rugby. So they kind of see that rounders kind of would have parallels to it in some way, in that at an adult level you can play it, you can play mixed teams. There's a great kind of social element to it. It's quite recreational. You know, there is an elite level too, but most teams will play it very kind of really at a recreational level. And then also that the skills, I suppose, that are involved in rounders, not dissimilar from tag rugby, they can be learned in adulthood. It's not something that, you know, nearly you have to be playing from when you were 5 or 6, you know, that you can develop those skills later on. So they see the potential of that. So they're absolutely behind us 100%. This year we were coaching in, say, teaching colleges to try and get it out through Coming in Munskell. As well as that, we were in, like, say, a number of cool camps all over the country. So, like, and it wasn't just happening, say, Ulster would always have been great for rounders. Leinster would always have been great. There'd be patches in Connacht, but they were going all over the country with it. Have a go days. It was one of the sports in it as well. So it was absolutely brilliant. Like, we were doing coaching sessions, and one of the things that surprised us most is at the Have a Go days, the fantastic coaching sessions with the kids. But then their parents would be standing on the sideline and kind of say, yeah, I might like that. I might try that and give that a go. So we actually, nearly the parents were as interested in the kids that you kind of could have an impromptu game and all the little rivalries and everything that all kind of developed. So it's so accessible. So it's brilliant.
Sounds great, and a great incentive. And if schools want coaches, or they want to, you know, now that there's this push and Coming in Munskell are involved, to introduce schools to rounders. I mean, most teachers can say, yeah, I've had a go, I've played rounders, but you know, and I always find it's great, the kids love it. But if you do want to get coaches in schools, and if there was any teachers watching and they were wondering, well, how do I go about this?
Well, I mean, you would go centrally through it's GAArounders.ie. For the very moment, and there is a contact page where they'll filter it back down, essentially, so they'd filter it back down to the coaches in Cavan, so that would be to us. Generally, that's what they do. We hope to strengthen up. This is part of the development, organisational development, is that you'd strengthen up the provincial councils as well. Also within Cavan, we're in our infancy, but we're beginning to set up a Cavan Rounders network as well. So we hope kind of towards the middle of the year that we'll be the port of call. We'll be the first one. If anyone is looking to establish a club, get coaches, but that's going to be the middle of the year before we roll that out.
Because there's been, in the last couple of years, we've had such a push with hurling in schools and handball, I suppose, more recently. A lot of schools have the one wall kind of erected in their gym halls and around their schools. So I've seen a huge kind of surge and a lot of more promotion. Of course, Egan O'Farrell, our incoming president-elect, do you think you know, he'll have an influence and maybe a push, maybe something? He's obviously he's interested in rounders. It's one of his sports. So
yeah, very much so. And I suppose that's part of our looking to set up, you know, the Cavan Rounders network, is that we are helping ourselves in another way, that if we're more visible on the ground, because Cavan has had just such enormous success in rounders, you know. From our own club, our own senior men's team won the All-Ireland title 11 times in a row. I mean, it was just a phenomenal achievement. Our women's team have won 2 All-Irelands, mixed teams we've won 6. But like even here in town, St. Clair's had an absolutely amazing team. They won the All-Ireland 3 times, say in the last decade, and now they have set up again under kind of Cavan Gale, so we're absolutely delighted that they're coming back in the fold. Phenomenal players. And then say out in Ballyhaise have been winning community games, All-Ireland gold medals since nearly, it feels like God was a gossip at this stage. I mean, Colm Lynch and now Martin Browdy, originally a Mullahoran man, they've put so much work into it, and time again they kind of create these hugely successful teams, you know. So we've been doing the work on the ground, and I think perhaps we've been a little bit guilty, and I suppose it's the nature of minority sports that you're doing the work on the ground, the kids are playing, but you're not just plugging it enough. So I suppose this is what we're looking to be a little bit more visible, you know, get ourselves a little bit more organised then in that sense. And
did you start rounders yourself through community games,
or what
was your kind of first introduction to rounders?
Yeah, absolutely. And like so many of the kids come in through community games. I started playing when I was about 8, and on the All-Ireland, the women's team in 2007 that won the All-Ireland, there was something like, I think there was 7 of the players that had all come through community games. We'd all grown up within, say, a mile of each other, and we used to spend like well into the summer evenings till we were roared home, kind of out the back of each other's houses playing rounders. You know, we just played and played and played. The joy we got from the sport, and particularly for the likes of me, and I won't name the 1 or 2 others who they wouldn't have necessarily found their sport at that stage. They, certainly in my own case, wouldn't be able to kick a ball from here to the door now, and I know you're not supposed to say that if you're from Mullahoran, but it was great then to kind of find rounders, to find that sport, and like how much we kind of have gotten out of it through the years. Like say in terms of our club, we would have played in Croke Park, we were on Hector Goes G.A.A. last year, which was just absolutely brilliant crack. So played down in Semple Stadium. Not a lot of people know this, but when he hit the ball, he actually nutted somebody out in left outfield. It wasn't me, but he did actually nut them. And he kept running round the bases while the person was not, it wasn't clear how injured they were. So there's a little tip, he's ruthless. He's absolutely ruthless.
Hector, if you're watching, we know we're on to you. I suppose a lot of people may not be aware, you know, you've won All-Irelands in the past, but it's club. So the way rounders works, it's not a county team, but there's many teams in Cavan. Just to kind of give us a kind of a rundown of what the names of the club teams are here in Cavan and how it all works.
Well, say with, I suppose, our club championship, it would have been originally how they say football and hurling would have started off, that you play out through your club. So in Cavan, of course, we'd have Ballyhaise. We now have the Cavan Gales team. We have burgeonings of our own in Éireann Eagles, where Mullahoran, Gowna and Ballymacue. So there are other places, say Ballina, they're kind of beginning to start up as well. We're having kind of hopeful noises all over the place. We're hoping to get a couple more clubs on the go. But there are sort of pockets around the place, pockets of persistence, I suppose, as we call them. So up in Derry, there'd be there'd be 4 or 5 clubs. Our own kind of Cavan, then down in Carlow there's a number of clubs, Dublin as well. Wexford would have kind of a glut of clubs then as well, Laois too. So there's kind of these pockets, and I suppose the nature of our championship now, because it's club based, so you play kind of as a league, and then the top 4 kind of compete then for the semi-final. So we're travelling the roads of Ireland, basically.
A lot of travel involved, huge amount of travel. So that it just varies a little from the actual Club All Ireland. Obviously, you know, you want younger players getting involved, and you want to get. Do you find that there's a bit of a drought for new members, or you know, kind of feeding it up through the clubs, or what, you know, is that kind of, you're kind of wanting new members at this point?
Yeah, and I suppose that's part of, say, the G.A.A. They because it's a minority sport, everyone is then player, kind of half manager, half coach, driver, recruiter, and everything. Because we now have that structure of the G.A.A. behind us, or they're beginning to get behind us, it will allow us to bring kind of players up. We know, say, as you know, as you're saying yourself, in schools, and up and down the country, people are playing, but we haven't up until now been necessarily filtering them up through into kind of clubs, into G.A.A. clubs, into, say, our own clubs. So we're hoping with the strategic plan, with the rollout of, say, all this coaching and development through, you know, the Have a Go games, through cool camps, that we'll begin to kind of get that structure in place. We'll start kind of keeping those kids instead of kind of, well, they can drift off to other sports. And I suppose that's what you'd say about rounders. It's a sport you can play with many other, you know.
They can be dual players.
Oh, absolutely,
but
absolutely.
Find a lot of the Gaelic footballers and the hurlers, and we've had many guests on the show who are dual players, and they can work around both. So I suppose that's something you'd really want to see, of course, you know, happen.
Yeah, we would
here.
have had some, like, you know, a load of footballers, say, on our Erin Eagles teams. We would have an absolute ton of them. I mean, Paul Brady, footballer, handballer, he would have played with us for a while. His brother actually played with us as well. Like, we would have had, there's so many players that, you know, the time commitments, it's not kind of elite in that nature of football. Yeah. And in one sense, we wouldn't want it to be that kind of, I wouldn't quite call it informal, I'd call it more recreational nature. It kind of goes with the ethos of the sport. It's a very, I suppose, sort of egalitarian sport in that everybody gets their chance to bat. You know, you can't not pass the ball to somebody, in that if the opposition thinks you're the weak link, they're going to hit the ball to you. So, you know, everyone kind of gets the chance to be involved. So that's another one of the benefits of it, I'd say.
Sounds great. Yeah. We actually have some photographs, and Dympna will talk us through these, so they're just going to come up on your screens now.
Oh yes, so this is our All-Stars, and top row, or front row there, second from the right is Sean O'Grady from Mullahorn, so won our All-Star this year.
Brilliant, congratulations,
That's
Sean.
Base, yeah.
So that was on the night in Portlaoise.
Yeah, fantastic. So this is one of our players, Anne-Marie Donoghue, playing in the Interprovincial Championships. So at the end of every season, we'd have an interprovincial run-off, so she was representing Ulster. I think we might have just sneaked a win that particular year, so thanks to Anne-Marie's fine swing. Another one of our players now, former players now emigrated, Aisling Smith. So Interpro Jim Reilly, a long stalwart of our club, so great coach as well. This is the Hector Goes G.A.A. So there were three members of the club. There's Lindsay Reilly there in the front row, Erin Eagles. There's myself and Darryl Dolan. We great crack down in a very cold Semple Stadium on a November evening. And as I say, sneaky Hector. We found out he was ruthless, but it was absolutely brilliant crack, and great to get the opportunity to play there.
Great, brilliant. Tell us, how did you get involved with the whole hectoring and becoming part of that show?
They looked for us, and they kind of, because he was doing the Hector Goes G.A.A., and I suppose they thought it was they really liked the idea of rounders, because they thought it was probably a lesser known and kind of quirky kind of part of it as well. And they were quite curious as to, I suppose, how rounders kind of was in under the G.A.A., because, I mean, there's an English version of rounders as well. So the best suggestion, I suppose, we could give at the time is that around the time that the G.A.A. was being set up, cricket was absolutely massive in parts of Leinster. So obviously rounders was considered a little bit less, I suppose, English really, and it was considered a little bit more of a native game, and that's why it was taken on. And like for years it had kind of fallen into abeyance really, where it wasn't being played at all, and then it was Ulster yet again who revived it in the 60s and codified it. So now it's quite similar to, it will be more similar to baseball than it is to than it would be to English rounders. English rounders is a very, very kind of different sport now. Like ours is closer to baseball in that we use our baseball bats.
Yeah, and you have that here.
Yeah.
And interesting you should say that, because there is the Cavan Comets baseball team here in Cavan, and we've had them on the show, and I've had them in the school as well, demonstrating for the children. And that was the one thing that we were, I suppose they were saying, was that it had huge comparisons and similarities really, that baseball came from rounders really. It was obviously brought across the water, so this is similar bats you'd use.
And we would have played a couple of compromise rules games with them, you know, which is, well, we compromise, we play their sport, they play our sport. So and when you're kind of playing it like that, you see the differences between the sports are quite minuscule. I mean, a key one would be no gloves. So we don't have, you know, the big baseball mitts. And I suppose another one is that the pitch would be underarm, so that you're throwing it that way, as opposed to, you know, the overarm pitch that you'd see on the baseball movies. Yeah. But after that, the similarities really are very close. So, I mean, like some of us who are based in Dublin would play even softball up in Dublin and then come down and play rounders at the weekend down here. We kind of say it's getting our rounders fix in for the week.
Of course. Yeah. You know, you did kind of say there was comparisons between, you know, the likes of tag rugby in recent years has really taken off. Yeah. And of course it's all mixed teams. It's a great way, I suppose, for people to meet new people, and it's a social side, you know, as well as, you know, obviously getting fit and active and getting involved in a new sport. Is this something you kind of want to push a little bit more?
Very much so.
Because it's great fun. I mean, I was on a hen party and one of the activities was, let's have a game of rounders.
Oh, brilliant. It was great. It is, yeah. No, it is. And because it's kind of, as I say, the ethos is much more informal and no more than, you know, say for myself, the idea of doing a treadmill in the gym absolutely horrifies me, but you're going out, you're running about the place and unbeknownst to yourself, you're actually getting fit. Huge kind of social element of it, and we really would emphasise that. And I suppose it is because you have up to senior level and including senior level, you have men and women playing on the same team. Now that in itself can lead to a little bit of tension, I suppose, every now and again, where some of the more, we call them ambitious fellas, come in and steal the catches off the women on the team. So it's really funny when that happens in a game, because even the women on the other team, this is the line that is shouted at any fella who does that is, let the girls play, you know. We're not ornamental, we're here to play. So the dynamic of it is very different, you know, and I suppose it kind of, whereas among the women's team it would be very empathetic and very, the boys would push you that little bit more, you know. So it's an interesting dynamic moving, say, from the women's to the men's. Yeah,
sounds great. Yeah. Dympna, just to give our viewers some details, if just the websites or a Twitter page or Facebook page or anything, or any way they can get in contact with any of the clubs here in Cavan, or I suppose around the county, around the country, and if they want to get involved in rounders here in Cavan, maybe you just might let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our own club, Erin Eagles, is erineagles@gmail.com, or just Google Erin Eagles. You can contact us through there. There's G.A.A. Rounders.ie is the National Rounders website, and say for coaching for schools, for the moment they are the contact point, although as I say we hope to rectify that later in the year. And we have there's an Erin Eagles Facebook page, and there's also Cavan Gales G.A.A. Rounders Facebook page as well. So
that's great. Dympna Reilly, PRO, you're doing great work behind the scenes. You're really pushing rounders here in the county. Again, congratulations on your 5th All-Star. Yourself and Paul Brady can, you know, can join together in celebration. So, but congratulations, absolute pleasure having you on the show, and good luck with the rounders. Thank you very much. So delighted to have Dympna Reilly, 5-time rounders all-star, on the show tonight. And also just a little reminder for the launch of the 2015 calendar for Mountnugent G.A.A, and that's taking place in Crover House Saturday, November 29th. So make sure to head along to that. So that brings an end to our show for this week. I will be back again at the same time next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. If you'd like your sport featured on the show, simply contact drumlamedia@gmail.com. You can contact me on Facebook or on my Twitter page at Cavan TV Sport. So it's goodbye from me, Louise O'Reilly.